You're about to see for the first time secrets of the Nazi Holocaust that have been hidden away.
This began with a door, not a symbol, a real one, rusted shut, hidden beneath the rubble of a ruined empire. Behind it, darkness, and something no one was meant to see.
Buried 7 meters deep in the gut of Berlin.
70 years after Hitler and Eva Braun vanished into myth and flame.
It was on 29th April in 1945 that Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun married, only hours before they both died by suicide.
A French officer stumbled upon what they tried to erase. Letters, maps, orders, proof. These weren't rumors. They were records. Real paper, real ink, untouched by time.
The storerooms are immense. 16 miles of shelves holding the stories of 17 million victims.
For decades, the world thought it knew the story. But these pages whisper something else. They reveal the final hours of a man and a regime, crumbling beneath the weight of its delusions. A Frenchman's secret. In the gray stillness of November 1945, a group of French officers stepped through the ruins of Berlin. They weren't tourists. They came with maps, orders, and curiosity sharpened by war. At the center of the devastation stood what remained of Hitler's chancellery, walls blackened by fire, rooms stripped by looters, silence dripping from every crack. One man among them, Commandant Raymond Rose, walked through the scorched entrance on Vossstrasse, unaware he was about to uncover what the Nazis had tried to bury forever. He descended step by step into the bunker's ruins. The place still reeked of damp stone and burned paper. They used torches to navigate the dark, past a hidden door, down an 8-step staircase, then another. 26 more steps into what felt like the lungs of the earth. And there, past the ceremonial columns, the iron doors, the ash and candle wax, they found the mess. A flood of forgotten history, untouched. Letters, ledgers, and personal notes, administrative documents that should have vanished in the fire. In the most remote chamber, Rose discovered what no one else had. 3 hand-sketched maps. Drawn by his hand, they traced his path through the bunker. On them, he marked the exact place where he found the trove. Hitler's private files, long thought destroyed. The papers were damp, some half burned, but legible. They revealed not just military orders but human cracks, shifts in tone, notes of despair, and sudden outbursts written in the margins. Rose didn't understand the full weight of his discovery. He gathered what he could, placed them in a wardrobe box, and brought them back to France. For decades they sat, forgotten, not in a museum, not in a vault, but in the home of a collector who saw in them something fragile and human. Eventually he realized their worth, not in value, but in truth. They weren't just documents, they were evidence, and they told a story no one had yet heard. Not about how Hitler lived, but how he chose to fall. Inside the Führerbunker, beneath the ruined gardens of the Reich Chancellery, lay Hitler's final fortress, if you could call it that. The Führerbunker was not a palace, it was a concrete coffin. Small, airless, and buried 7 meters deep. Space had been sacrificed for survival. Walls thick enough to block Allied bombs, but not the decay of power. The bunker dripped constantly from the nearby Spree River. Pumps never stopped running. The fan system filled the space with a dull hum that burrowed into your skull. Even silence wasn't quiet down there. It was pressure. It was fatigue. It was the sound of a regime shrinking inward. Hitler claimed 4 narrow rooms for himself and a 5th for Eva Braun. A small bathroom connected them. There was no luxury, just furniture, dim bulbs, and whispers. Across the hallway, his inner circle slept in tight quarters. Bormann, Goebbels, guards, secretaries. 30 people orbiting a man already breaking down. Each day he held military briefings in a windowless room, but the authority was a shadow. His left hand trembled so violently that he had to hold it with his right. Parkinson's had bent his back, slowed his steps. He issued commands to units that no longer existed. Dr. Morell tried to sustain him with injections, vitamins, glucose, and sedatives, but it wasn't working. Witnesses later said Hitler looked hollow, his face was pale, his voice is thin. The man who once mesmerized millions now looked 20 years older, unable to hide the cracks. The bunker wasn't a command center, it was a mausoleum, and yet he stayed, not because of courage, because of fear, of fleeing, of losing control. He believed history could still be shaped from underground. What he didn't realize was that it already had. The collapse begins. By mid-April 1945, Berlin had become a cage. The Red Army was closing in, less than 100 kilometers away. 500,000 Soviet soldiers and a flood of armor advanced relentlessly. Hitler, sealed inside his bunker, still issued orders. Maps lay stretched before him. Cities fell, lines moved. But his commands no longer meant anything. The city above was collapsing. Every day brought American bombers. Every night came British air raids. Berliners lived underground. So did Hitler. Not from solidarity, but necessity. He'd moved into the bunker permanently, unable to withstand the destruction or face the people he'd failed. And yet, in this ruin, Eva Braun stayed, refused to leave. She sent a letter to her best friend, Herta Schneider, dated April 19th. "We shoot handguns every day," she joked, but the tone shifted. She wrote of sleepless nights, collapsing ceilings, and her decision to stay by Hitler's side, no matter the outcome. Eva had always lived on the margins of his public life, hidden, untitled. But in the bunker, surrounded by silence, her loyalty became defiance. Everyone else wanted to flee. She only feared being left behind. That same day, Soviet tanks entered the suburbs. The Reichstag would soon be a battlefield. Inside the bunker, no one admitted it, but hope had already bled out. The letter Eva wrote is more than a farewell. It's a mirror. It reflects the delusion that still lingered, the lie that the Reich could be saved, the idea that dying beside him would give her life meaning. She believed it. He didn't stop her. And so, surrounded by smoke and surrender, she waited, perfectly calm, while the world above disintegrated. The Führer's last birthday. April 20th, 1945, Adolf Hitler's last birthday. The city was under siege. The bunker trembled with every shell, yet tradition demanded ceremony. So it went on. A procession of Nazi elites arrived to offer congratulations. Goering, Himmler, Ribbentrop all performed their part, knowing the Reich was finished. At 3:00 p.m., Hitler emerged from below. Outside, the garden was cratered and muddy. He met with a small group of Hitler youth, boys no older than 12. He shook their hands, one by one. His left arm trembled so badly he had to steady it. His skin looked gray. His eyes were full. The children would soon be fighting tanks. He knew that. He sent them anyway.
"You are so brave. I wish my generals were as brave as you. You all made history, and you are the real hero."
Inside, Eva Braun waited with a gift, a framed photo of herself, engraved with her monogram. The inscription read, "To my Führer, from your faithful Eva." Not his name, not love, just faithful. It was the clearest expression of what she had chosen to become. Goering, meanwhile, was plotting his next move. That morning, he had blown up his estate and sent convoys of stolen artwork south. By the time he shook Hitler's hand, he had already begun to imagine a Reich without him. The birthday ended with the last Allied air raid over Berlin. There was no cake, no music, only the sound of collapsing walls and a regime in freefall. That night, no one spoke of celebration, only escape, only options. Hitler remained where he was, frozen in the belief that if Berlin fell, the world might follow. What he didn't see was that the world had already moved on, and the man who once demanded loyalty now sat surrounded by ghosts, holding nothing but a frame and fading control. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. Treason and paranoia. April 22nd, 1945. Hitler erupted during the midday briefing. He shouted, cursed the generals, and declared it was over. "Everything is lost!" he screamed. No one replied. Outside that bunker room, another drama was quietly beginning, one that would end with accusations of treason. Hermann Goering, sheltering in Bavaria, believed Hitler had finally given up. For years, he'd been named Hitler's successor by decree. So he sent a telegram, cautious in tone but clear in intent. If Hitler made no contact by 10 p.m., Goering would assume full control of the Reich. That message landed in the hands of Hitler, Bormann, and Goebbels. They pounced. A coup attempt, they said. Treason. Hitler believed them instantly. His reply was blunt. "I forbid you to take any action." Goering was cut off. Hitler then demanded that Goering resign or face consequences. The next day, Goering complied, claiming poor health. He begged forgiveness, but the damage was done. The documents found by Commandant Rose capture this dissent. Original telegrams, drafts, and notes scribbled in panic. They show a chain of power fraying into paranoia. In the bunker, everyone watched their words. Alliances shifted. Trust no longer existed. Hitler had been betrayed too many times by generals, ministers, and now even by Goering. He saw shadows in every corner. Survival had become suspicious, power, poison, and as the walls closed in, Hitler stopped looking outward. His war was now with ghosts, real and imagined. The collapse of power. While Hitler raged over Goering's message, another betrayal surfaced. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, had quietly reached out to the Western Allies. He offered Germany's surrender, not for Hitler, but for himself. On April 28th, the news broke. The Western press mocked him. One clipping found its way into the bunker. Hitler's fury was instant. He stripped Himmler of all authority and turned his attention to SS General Hermann Fegelein, Himmler's link inside the bunker, and Eva Braun's brother-in-law. Caught trying to flee, possibly with a mistress, Fegelein became the symbol of collapse. Hitler ordered his execution. No trial, no delay. Eva Braun didn't intervene. Still, Hitler clung to fantasy. He believed General Wenck's 12th Army would rescue Berlin, but the 12th was already falling back. No help was coming. Not then. Not ever. The conversations between Hitler and Goebbels turned grim. "Now it is my turn to obey the orders of fate," Hitler muttered. He no longer commanded armies, just shadows. The bunker, once a shelter, had become a tomb. He refused to leave Berlin. He refused the Alps, the escape routes. His death, he believed, needed drama, needed symbolism. Berlin, not Bavaria, was the stage. Outside, the Soviets closed in. Inside, decisions meant nothing. Orders were issued to divisions that no longer existed. In those final hours, the idea of power became something else. Not control, but performance. Not strategy, but ritual. Hitler would not be saved, but he would still try to choreograph the ending. Death, love, and legacy. In the early hours of April 29, 1945, Adolf Hitler married Eva Braun. The ceremony was short. Witnesses were few. Goebbels, Bormann, a civil registrar. It wasn't love that prompted it. It was closure. 13 years she'd waited. Now, with the end near, he gave her a name, Frau Hitler. They toasted with sparkling wine. Then Hitler called in his secretary. He dictated his final will. No apology, no reflection, just blame. Jews, traitors, generals, everyone but himself. He signed it and returned to Eva. Above them, Berlin was falling. Shells struck closer. Soviet troops were tightening the ring. Below ground, Hitler prepared for the last scene. He'd tested the cyanide on his dog. It worked. At 3:00 p.m. on April 30th, Hitler and Eva entered their quarters. One gunshot, one capsule.
It was on 29th April in 1945 that Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun married, only hours before they both died by suicide.
Moments later, aides carried their bodies to the Chancellery garden, doused them in fuel, set them alight. He did not want a body left behind. He'd seen what happened to Mussolini. He wanted no public spectacle, just fire, and then ash. What survived were the documents. Commandant Rose's discovery, notes, letters, orders, captured not a leader, but a man cornered by his lies. Hitler didn't die defiantly. He died trapped. Eva Braun, too, fulfilled her promise to follow him no matter what. Goebbels followed a day later. 6 children were poisoned. He and his wife were killed by a gunshot. The bunker was emptying. The Reich had become a basement of corpses and silence. Only paper remained to tell what fire couldn't burn, what remained and what didn't. On May 2, 1945, Soviet troops entered the bunker. The war above was over. Below, they found ash, debris, and silence. In the garden, beneath a thin layer of dirt, 2 burned bodies lay in a crate, one male, one female. It was Hitler and Eva Braun. His teeth confirmed it. A gold dental bridge, custom-made, survived the fire. Yet Stalin gave no confirmation. Even Marshal Zhukov wasn't told. When reporters asked, Zhukov claimed they hadn't found Hitler's body. He may have escaped, he said. It was a lie, but it worked. The myth was born. Hitler in Argentina. Hitler in hiding. For decades, that lie fueled books, rumors, and sightings. Not because it was true, but because Stalin found it useful. The Soviets buried the truth. Then they buried the bunker. For years, it sat beneath a parking lot. No plaque, no history, just silence. But the documents didn't stay buried. The files Commandant Rose recovered, maps, letters, and orders survived. They gave voice to a moment Hitler tried to erase. They revealed fear, decay, and delusion at the core of the Reich's collapse. No escape, no resurrection, only paper. Telling the truth, fire failed to destroy. This ended in silence. No trial, no last speech, just fire, fumes, and a vanishing body. For decades, we stared at ruins, wondering what truth had been buried with them. But the bunker didn't hold its secrets forever. One French officer, one forgotten discovery. And now, decades later, the voices return. Not through propaganda, through the paper, through ink, through names and dates no longer denied. These aren't just fragments of the past, they're warnings of how easily lies take root when truth is burned. The end of the Reich wasn't just military, it was mental. And now, finally, we can read it.